Do the Gators have a player for the first round of the 2024 NFL draft? And we got some recent portal news, breaking it down right here on Gators Breakdown.
Gators Breakdown, because there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation.
The Gators Breakdown podcast is ready to go. I'm your host, David Waters. You can find me on Twitter at GatorDave_SEC. Coming at you the weekend, the Sunday, late Sunday night, if you're watching this live. So thank you very much for doing that. But coming at you, NFL draft over. 2023 NFL draft. The Gators 6 picks, but only one in the first round. That is quarterback Anthony Richardson. But let's peek ahead. Let's go a year away from now. Anthony Richardson in 2023. Do the Gators even have a player that's worthy of a first-round pick in the 2024 NFL draft? We'll break it down a little bit right here on Gators Breakdown. And plus, a target out there I brought to you guys a little over a week ago. Josh Simmons, offensive lineman from San Diego State, commits to Ohio State. So Gators losing offensive lineman target. We'll get into a little bit more details on that, some portal news to go along with this NFL draft talk. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you're watching this, as I said, late right here on a Sunday night, I wanted to get this out there for all the drive time people on a Monday morning. So recording late on a Sunday. Hopefully, if you're driving around on Monday morning, you got this episode waiting on you. But if you are watching this live, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you're watching the replay, hit that like button. Subscribe to Gators Breakdown if you haven't done so yet. Of course, you can leave a donation right there on YouTube as well, getting that super chat, all these pertinent comments. Clean comments, of course, as well. At the same time, I'll sit there and share them right here on the YouTube version. Leave a comment. I'm sure you got some thoughts out there of who you think could be a first-round NFL pick for the Gators next year in that 2024 NFL draft. All your support helps Gators Breakdown grow. Also on the Gators Breakdown Plus side as well. All that a lot of conversation going on there now about portal. Of course, recruiting that never slows down. But also just general conversation. If you want to talk with some Gator fans, the Gators Breakdown Plus Discord is a great place to do so. All right, so let's get it going. Portal news. As I mentioned, Josh Simmons, a 6'6", 305-pound offensive lineman from San Diego State, commits to Ohio State. Kind of a surprise. And look, was supposed to visit Gainesville next week, but that visit's no longer going to happen. He visited Oklahoma before, visited Ohio State. Never even going to make it to the trip to Gainesville as he commits to Ohio State. And this one looked really good when he put his name into the portal. Of course, asking around, I put his name out there. I wasn't the only one. Jacob Rudner, 24/7, Swamp 24/7 put it out there first that he was going to visit, and everything looked good for Florida. But not going to happen. And this is on the heels. I didn't come back and go on this, but the North Texas tight end that I brought up too, Marquise Gums, committed to Arkansas last week after his visit there. So, it begs the question, and, why is Florida waiting for all these portal visits till after the window closes? You had these 2 weeks here for players to put their name into the portal, but Florida's plan was to wait till after all that and then bring them in for visits. So you allow visits for these players to go to other schools, and these other schools have wrapped them up. They've not let these players leave campus before committing. Gums last week committed to Arkansas. His only visit, boom, committed. Simmons now, as I said, 2 visits. Had Florida set up for next week, but commits to Ohio State. So, this whole process for Florida that has been kept quiet on purpose. After last season, the other programs keying in on UF targets, and that hurt Florida a bit. But this now slow approach in scheduling visits has kind of come back to bite Florida a bit. Not scheduling visits until this portal window is closed. And look, is that part of it, to keep current players from transferring? Okay, well, they want to transfer, they probably haven't contributed a whole lot or feel like they aren't going to contribute. I understand the culture and you want to build the locker room the right way and all that, but there's just been no sense of urgency about how the staff goes about the portal. And that's not to say there haven't been good portal acquisitions. There absolutely have. But there could have been more. And especially for this one, that, this second portal window where I think you're looking for guys who can come contribute to this 2023 season a bit more. And there have been good portal grabs for Florida. That's not what I'm saying. It's just there could have been more. And now these visits have taken places, and Florida's not even getting a chance to visit, show off Florida, show off what you're building here. Granted, don't get me wrong. Every portal target that we, as fans, are interested in, doesn't necessarily mean the staff is, but I can tell you, we know Simmons was. They had a visit schedule with him. And I like what Florida did somewhat along the offensive line, but we got to figure out what Mizuka's going to do. Hopefully he comes back healthy in the fall. Keontae Goodwin there at right tackle spot for the Gators. Damian George probably now that guard spot. But there's a lot of questions on that right side. And Simmons could have come in and helped solidify some depth and help with the competition there, especially with George right there at the right guard spot. And we know Florida wanted him. They had a visit scheduled with him. So, there's been good acquisitions. And look, Florida will get more good transfer guys, but there could have been more. Now, so some of these recent players that put their names out there, RJ Moten being one of them. I know he's kind of been the interest in him from the fan bases there. We'll see what happens from Florida's end, the Michigan safety. We'll see where that goes. But, there's been some recent players I think Florida will be in on, especially now that they are hosting players. The window, the transfer window to announce is closing here. We're right here late on a Sunday night. I believe they have 12 till 12:01 or something like that to put their name in. So as we're recording, they got about 2 hours before they can put their name in. But I'd like to think Florida would sit in better position with portal targets, portal acquisitions had they not slow played. So there we go. That's kind of the recent portal news right there for the Gators. 2 targets, one last week with Varquise Gums, the tight end from North Texas. Set all kind of records there. Visits Arkansas, commits. Josh Simmons visits Oklahoma, visits Ohio State, commits to Ohio State. A week before he's supposed to take his visit to Florida. So we'll see. I'm sure there'll be a lot of news. I mean, this 2-week portal window, remember, this was to announce their intentions to put their name into the transfer portal. They still have some time to decide where they want to go. All right, so let's go to some draft talk. 2023 NFL draft started Thursday night, of course. Everybody hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Also on Gators Breakdown Plus. If you want those commercial-free versions of Gators Breakdown for the podcast version, you can become a Gators Breakdown Plus member. But NFL draft, of course, Gators with 6 picks for the NFL draft. Of course, Anthony Richardson, the headliner. We knew he was going to go in the first round. We knew he was going to go early. There was some question how early. But after some trades and movement along, throughout the months and the weeks and the night of the NFL draft, Anthony Richardson goes 4th overall to the Indianapolis Colts. 3rd quarterback taken in the NFL draft there. Gators' 2nd pick comes on the 2nd day of the draft, 53rd overall, and it was not Osiris Torrance going 2nd behind Anthony Richardson. It was actually one Gervon Dexter going 53rd overall to the Chicago Bears in the 2nd round. Then Osiris Torrance gets picked up by the Buffalo Bills, 59th overall in the 2nd round. And then we go to day 3. Local Jacksonville Jaguars select Ventrell Miller, so it'd be nice to keep up with his career here locally. He was the 121st overall pick right there in the 4th round. Another pick by the Buffalo Bills, wide receiver Justin Shorter goes 150th overall. He was drafted in the 5th round. And then one, kind of sentimental to me, Amari Burney. He was the first recruit player that I've ever had here on Gators Breakdown. gets drafted in the 6th round by the Las Vegas Raiders. And, it's just, we thought, when he was going to be recruited, he'd be a safety and maybe a nickel, a star position at some point, given his athleticism, but grew into a linebacker. They developed him into a linebacker. Current staff keeps him there, and he makes a huge jump in his senior season, enough to get drafted in the NFL by the Las Vegas Raiders. So good there for Amari Burney. Richard Garage did not get drafted, signed as a free agent. That was kind of maybe one surprise there. He could have came back this year for Florida. Remember that. Brenton Cox goes undrafted there for the Gators as well. But there's just 6 draftees. Anthony Richardson in the 1st round, Jervon Dexter in the 2nd, Osiris Torrance in the 2nd, Ventrell Miller in the 4th, Justin Shorter in the 5th, Amari Burney in the 6th round to give you 6 draft picks for your Florida Gators. And a little bit of notes here for the draft and the Gators. 4th time with 6 Gators drafted since 1967, kind of the common era of the draft there. Last time since 1996, so the Gators had 6 drafted. Program record is 10 in 1978. Remember, you thought that would be a little bit more recent, huh? But the program record for the Gators in a draft, 10 in 1978. The Gators, 282 draft picks since 1967. That's 10th most in college football. USC leads the way with 357. But that does lead the SEC since 1967, common era of the draft. The Gators lead the way with 282 draft picks in the SEC. Since 2000, the turn of the century here, 134 draft picks for the Gators. That's 5th most in college football. Ohio State leading the way there with 163. The Gators 4th most in the SEC. Alabama leads with 154 since 2000. So, of course, it was Anthony Richardson going first in this year's NFL draft in the 1st round, 4th overall. He was the 2nd player to be drafted number 4 in the NFL draft. The other was Kyle Pitts in 2021. He was 4th overall to Atlanta. Tied for the 2nd highest Gator draft pick of all time. The highest is number 3 overall 4 times for the Gators. The last one being Dante Fowler in 2015 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. The others, Gerard Warren in 2001. I believe that was the Cleveland Browns. Wes Chandler in 1978. And then Steve Spurrier in 1967 went 3rd overall as well. So the highest draft pick ever for the Gators, Dante Fowler in 2015, Gerard Warren in 2001, Wes Chandler in 1978, Steve Spurrier in 1967. All 4 of those went 3rd overall. He was the 6th Florida player to be drafted in the top 4. Is Anthony Richardson. 2nd highest Florida quarterback drafted. And, of course, the highest being Steve Spurrier right there in 1967. And let's wrap it up with some 1st round notes from the NFL draft and the Gators. With Anthony Richardson being drafted in the 1st round, he's the 55th Gator to be drafted in the 1st round since 1967. That's 2nd most in the SEC. Alabama leads the way with 69. That's 5th most in college football. Ohio State leads the way with the most 1st rounders since 1967 with 77. Anthony Richardson was the 5th Gator quarterback to be drafted in the 1st round. Tim Tebow, Rex Grossman, John Reeves, Steve Spurrier, and now Anthony Richardson as the 5th quarterback in that group. Tim Tebow in 2010, Rex Grossman in 2003, John Reeves in 72, Steve Spurrier in 67. It's the 4th straight year a Gator has been drafted in the 1st round. Kyer Elam in 2022, Kyle Pitts in 21, Kadarius Toney in 21, C.J. Henderson in 2020. The longest streak the Gators have had, 6 consecutive years of first-round draft picks from 2015 to 2018. That can't be right. With the six consecutive years from 2015 to 2018. Yeah, that can't be right there. That's some notes from Florida right there. So, but I'm assuming it would have been 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. I have to go back and check that one. But it's the fourth straight year, of course. And that kind of takes us to next year. Will it be 5 years? Will it be 5 years for the Gators to have a first round pick? Now, I got trouble seeing it right now. I got trouble seeing it. Of seeing a first round pick for sure next year. I mean, to let you know how much things change, a year ago, you look at mock drafts after the 2022 NFL draft, and we saw Anthony Richardson. No surprise there. We kind of knew Anthony Richardson had that potential to be a first-round pick and didn't even have the season most of us thought he would have, and he still went number one or in the first-round pick, in the first round. But go back a year ago, and I'm sure you guys remember it. I remember seeing mock drafts with Rashad Torrance in the first round. He didn't get drafted. I saw mock drafts with Brenton Cox in the first round. He didn't get drafted. 2 years ago, I remember seeing mock drafts that had Emory Jones in the first round of mock drafts. So these mock drafts a year before the NFL draft, I mean, big time hit or miss. big time hit or miss. But I'm sure you guys remember it. I mean, I know we discussed it a little bit here last year. So these mock drafts, of course, it's a good barometer, kind of lets us know. And we know what kind of where Florida's talent is. But some of these mock drafts are kind of going to go into it as well. And, I mean, Trey Dean was thought at one time, as a early freshman, looking way down the road. Okay, he might be a first round pick. He was undrafted. So even some of the guys you thought at one point would be potential draft picks, potential first round draft picks, no, didn't even see it. Florida only had one in Anthony Richardson. I think there was even some talk, Jervon Dexter maybe shooting up that too, maybe in some mocks, or maybe having that potential. Did get drafted in the second round. But with Anthony Richardson, and the Gators now having 4 years in a row with a first round draft pick, that takes us to 2024. And can the Gators make it 5 years in a row? And now, I think you look at it, and this will extend. Matt Baker had a tweet, and he said, 11 teams had at least 6 picks in the NFL draft. 11 teams had at least 6 picks. Only one of them finished unranked. That was Florida. He says, what do we make of that? And the first top 5 quarterback from a losing team in almost 40 years. So what do we make of that? Well, I think we can make a little bit of looking forward a year. Looking forward to the 2024 NFL draft. And guys, we can't really peg anybody as a first-round draft pick. That's what we can make of it. There's still not a lot of elite top talent on this Florida roster. Now, can some guys have some good years and maybe end up a first-round pick? Sure. But as we sit here a year from next year's NFL draft, and we're being asked, what do we make of a losing record, and what does that mean for the Florida Gators? Well, I think we need to look forward a year, and that's what it means. We can't peg anybody for a first-round pick next year. Now, I do think, there are targets out there, but I went and looked. Pro Football Focus, the Draft Network, Draft Wire, 3 mock drafts right there. No Florida Gators were mocked for the 2024 NFL draft to go in the first round. Pro Football Focus, the Draft Network, Draft Wire, all three, none of them had a Gator going in the first round. And as I said, we looked at it last year. That doesn't mean they're right. I'm just saying it's kind of a projection, but it kind of does let us know maybe where this roster is, what people think about the roster. And there's not a lot of top-tier talent. But, I mean, we know that. We're not surprised by that. Now, I think we start looking at it, and I think because of a recruiting profile, 2 years in the system, now maybe Corey Raymond being more involved in the secondary, I think we look at Jason Marshall. And now he was given a late second-round grade from NFL Draft Buzz. They had him the 57th overall pick or 57th overall player for next year's draft and the 11th ranked cornerback. So what does a good season mean for him? Now he's got the margin here to go have a really good season and can be, especially at the cornerback spot in today's football. Jason Marshall goes out there and has a All-American type year. He's going to be in the first round next year. He's got the size that they covet in the NFL. 2021 freshman, saw action in 13 games, played a total of 634 snaps as a true freshman. This is what NFL Draft Buzz had to say about him. Mainly putting out stats here, of course, 17 tackles, 3 assists, adding 3 stops. In coverage, Marshall Jr. notched up 1 pass breakup, 1 interception, and a QB rating when targeted of 59.8. Now, we know he did take a step back last year in a new system, a different system, probably playing a little more off, not as aggressive. That kind of suits his style. Did get better as the year went on. But as a sophomore last year, played in 12 games, 618 snaps, 25 tackles, 3 assists, 2 stops, coverage, 7 pass breakups, 1 interception, QB rating of 74.7 when targeted. So I think if you are to look forward a year and who can be having their name called in the first round, I think Jason Marshall's, because of being a cornerback spot, given Corey Raymond's reputation of developing those first-round defensive backs back at LSU, Jason Marshall is one you really got to key in on if the Gators are going to have a first-round pick in the 2024 NFL Draft. Now, this isn't going to happen, but I do think with Anthony Richardson being there, I think we look at quarterback, and now I'm just... No. Am I projecting? Am I predicting? No, I'm not. You guys know I've talked about it enough. I'm not that high on Graham Mertz. He's listed as an undrafted free agent by that same website, NFL Draft Buzz. But he'd have to shed his reputation. He's got a long way to go. I'm talking about, Jason Marshall having right now, you'd be being mocked as a second rounder. He doesn't have that far to go. Looking at Graham Mertz, and I'll get to other guys right here, starting at that undrafted free agent level. Well, there's no 2019 season Joe Burrow about to happen in Gainesville for Graham Mertz. But what would a good season? What would a good season mean for Graham Mertz? Is that enough to get him drafted? But that's the extent of it. You're not looking at a back-to-back years of first-round quarterbacks for Florida. There is no 2019 season about to happen, Joe Burrow style here. It's just not. There's not that type of offense. There's going to be a run-heavy offense. I mean, Graham Mertz can go out there and be an excellent quarterback. But given this system, that's still not even in the cards. But let's go to some more, guys that I know the fan base is going to be looking at. I'll be looking at along with you guys. I'll stay on the offensive side of the ball just because, look, I don't think there's no sense in trying to go for right now, I don't think, in looking at maybe listing in order what are your chances. I think Jason Marshall, we start there because I think we can start at the top and him being your most likely. I do think there are guys we'll get into who have better chances than others. But I'll stick right here, offense. Ricky Pearsall, Walter Football has him the 12th best wide receiver in college football. We'll see what that means. Was invited to the NFL Combine this past year, so he's going to get drafted. But He's not that type of receiver to go in the first round. He's just not. He can go out there and have a great year. He's not going in the first round. If we look at some of the better players on this Gator roster, you're going to start listing, and you're going to probably in your top 5 is going to be Montrell Johnson. I mean, Ricky Pearsall's going to be probably in that top 5 as well. But Montrell Johnson, 7th round is what NFL mock draft database has for him. 203rd best player. Got him mocked going to the 7th round. He's a running back. He's not going first round. And I like Montrell Johnson a lot. I think he might can even raise this 7th round projection right here to go a bit higher than that. But he doesn't play that coveted position. He's not a Bijan Robinson from Texas. Q Lee, yeah, I completely agree. With Pearsall right there, good slot right receiver in the NFL, 3rd round. Yeah, that's exactly about where I see it. Harrison Sanchez kind of going back, thinking, yeah, can't think of one. That's terrible. It is. I mean, this is Florida. And look, so I say we'll go through the list here. Jason Marshall, as I said, most likely, but I think there's some other players out there. Now, Florida did bring in a transfer, a highly regarded transfer along the offensive line, and one Micah Mazuka, now battling injury. NFL Draft Buzz has him going undrafted as of right here, a year away. Overall, 381st player, the 60th offensive guard. Now, we just saw what happened with Osiris Torrance, and Micah Mazuka is no Osiris Torrance. He fell a little further than we thought. Still went in the 2nd round. But there were some talks he could slide into the 1st round. But if Osiris Torrance is not going 1st round, Micah Mazuka is not going 1st round. Now, they have him completely undrafted, which I may be a little too low on him. But we'll see. Now fighting an injury. We'll see where that goes as well. But he's going to come out and need this is kind of the thought of him. He's going to come out here and need a good year. But I saw his name brought up on Gators Breakdown Plus earlier as, maybe. But no, there's not even that thought about him. But no, if Osiris Torrance didn't go 1st round, I mean, there's not many offensive guards that are going to go 1st round. They did have this on Mazuka in 21 as a freshman, saw action in 10 games, played a total of 139 snaps for the Bears, allowed just 2 quarterback hurries, 1 QB hit, no sacks while playing left guard. As a sophomore in 2022, played in 11 games and a total of 759 snaps, conceded 8 quarterback hurries, 2 quarterback hits, 1 sack while playing left guard. So there's what they had from NFL Draft Buzz on Micah Mazuka. Let's keep it going, and just some names. And Harrison just brought up who I was about to bring up. He says, of course, Austin Barber, as a redshirt sophomore, could have a stellar year and go in the 1st round. So next year will be his 3rd year. So he could go to the NFL draft, playing that left guard spot. But is he going to be better than Richard Garage, who just went and tested the NFL draft waters and went undrafted as a left tackle for the Gators? I mean, he has that, 6'6", I'm off the top of my head, 6'6", 310, 311 range. I mean, he's got close to the size of an ideal NFL tackle. I think he can have a good year, but Richard Garage had an okay year. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, Richard Garage was some stalwart, not commit, can't miss prospect out there. I thought he'd get drafted, don't get me wrong. But if I'm taking it to the level here and we're looking at 1st rounders, I mean, Austin Barber will have to go out there. Yeah, as Harrison said, he'd have to have a great, stellar year. I wouldn't pick it right now. And that's all Q bring up. Going back to Q Lee here. And one I absolutely can really hop on board with, and that's one Princely Human Mielin. Q Lee says is the only one that he can see here. And what's that move to edge rusher going to be like for him? I think he's got some potential. He's lost some weight, supposed to be more athletic, supposed to be able to drop in coverage. I mean, if he can do all those things, do them well, and be that versatile piece for this defense, while still getting to the quarterback on a consistent basis, NFL teams are going to eat that up. If he can drop into coverage and make plays, if he can get around a tackle and get to the quarterback or a tackle for loss, he's going to garner a whole lot of interest. So what will this move to edge mean for him? And that's one reason I don't think we're going to see a lot of talk about him because of this position change. But yeah, he goes out there in this new position where he's going to be rushing the passer a bit more in this aggressive new style of defense as well. You could see Princely rise up the draft boards. Another player I think we should bring up in a transfer here is one Cam Jackson from Memphis. Versatile piece up front. Now, he'd have to go out there and have a year. To be first round right there in the middle of a defensive line, you got to go out there and just dominate. You're going to have to fight the double teams, the triple teams, and still go out there and dominate. We didn't see that from Gervon Dexter enough. Now, going back, and I do think some teams probably did their homework on Gervon Dexter. They went and saw how many snaps he had to play. They went and probably heard that he was playing with a back injury last year, limited, and he still went out there and gave it his all, playing 60 snaps a game. But for Cam Jackson, if there's a little more help around him, or he's not the sole focus of an offense that they have to block, he can show out there and make that jump from Memphis to Florida and have the same type of production, then maybe we see a Cam Jackson transfer from Memphis and a versatile piece there. The athleticism. He may have the athleticism to have a pretty good NFL career. Do I see it meaning first rounder? Probably not. Probably not. But he's one I'd look out for with a great year. Would that kind of go to first round? Probably not. But we'll see. We'll see. We're just this new look defense for Florida too this year. What would that mean for a lot of players? Especially for a Princely, a Cam Jackson, Jason Marshall. So we'll see. Give you a few on offense. I don't see many on the offensive side of the ball being able to sit here and say they can go in the first round. I think you have to look. It's probably going to be a defensive player for the Gators if you're looking for a first rounder for the 5th year in a row for the Gators. Jason Marshall, Princely, those would be my top two. Those would be my top two. And look, I could be completely way off as well. We'll see. Could be somebody I'm not even thinking of. Fred K, and he puts the disclaimer here. Wingo would be his long shot. It certainly would be a long shot. We haven't seen enough. Coming back from injury, great leader. Not a lot of production at this point to speak of, but Fred says it right here, a long shot. It would be. But, you got to look at ideal first-round spots. Quarterback, Florida, not going to have it next year. Had it this year with Anthony Richardson, I don't think you're going to have it next year. Wide receiver, start about Ricky Pearsall. There's really nobody else. But I don't see him as a first-rounder. Defensive line, / defensive front, talking about Princely, Cam Jackson. Okay, I can see it there. Offensive tackle, Austin Barber. Those are your first-round ideal spots. So go look at the draft and look at, we saw the run on quarterbacks. We saw the run at wide receiver. Looking at impact defensive linemen. Offensive tackle more so than offensive guard. And if you look at those spots for the Gators next year, there's just not a lot that's going to jump off the page and scream first-rounder a year away from the 2024 NFL Draft. All right, let's go. Novell Beeman says, I think Tyreek Sapp, Justice Boone. I think the defense, Jordan Castell, DB is going to have a great year, going to the national championship, win it all. All right, Novell, I hope. Sapp, Boone. Like I said, I can see it being a defensive player for the Gators. If you're getting your first rounder, it may be up front more so than anybody besides Jason Marshall up front for this Gator defensive line. So, all right, there we go. Just to get some thoughts out there, updating you guys on transfer portal a bit. I would expect this week to be pretty busy with all the announcements being made in these last 2 weeks. Now, I think we'll start seeing some movement, especially more so on Florida side now that they're finally bringing guys in for the transfer portal. Like I said, I don't really care for the strategy. Going back to earlier, the mistake, Matthew Walker, did you mean 13 to 18 for 6 years consecutively? Matthew, I'm going to assume that's what they meant. Like I said, I took those notes from the notes Florida sent out. I'm hoping that I just had the date wrong. I was going 18 as well to be the end year, so it would be 13 through 18. So, we'll see. I have to go back and look. I have to fact check Florida's notes that they sent out there. Let's see. But good stuff. Just updating you guys on the portal. I'll be here all week, of course, if there's any updates. Will's out of town, so won't have the dual host this week on Gators Breakdown. May have a special type of episode this week. Still trying to work out some things. Be on the lookout on Twitter. I'll try and post it on YouTube as well as a post. Trying to work on some things for a different kind of episode this week as well. So we'll see. Just be on the lookout for that. Something like that's going to happen soon. I'm hoping this week. So we'll see where that goes. And then one last thing here from Connor Johnson, then I'll let it go. What's up, y'all? David Connor, a serious loss. No, not really. So, like I said, I expected even more offensive linemen to hit the transfer portal for Florida. That's another thing about the transfer portal, I think, if we're looking at right now. Not as many names on the way out as I thought there would be at the same time for the Gators. So we're talking about transfer portal in the news going along there. I did think there would be a little more news as far as transfer portal out. I gave you guys the names before, and we didn't see it. So I think Florida's got 4 roster spots open right now as the transfer portal closes. These past 2 weeks, everybody's made their announcements right now. Transfer portal has closed. I believe, if I remember it right, Florida's got 4 open spots. So we'll see what that means in the next week or two. As I said, as I expect, everybody who has announced recently or everybody who has announced in these last couple of weeks, if they haven't announced by now, this next week, 2 weeks, going to be pretty busy as far as the transfer portal goes and schools getting their guys. So, all right, that'll do it for this episode of Gators Breakdown. I'm your host, David Waters. You can find me on Twitter at GatorDave_SEC. Guys and girls out there, thank you for listening to this episode of Gators Breakdown.